imagine, if you will, discovering a secret multi-million-dollar bank account in your name.
Oh, that would be nice.
Right. I mean, it was created the exact day you were born. And it's just sitting there, locked away in some government vault, just waiting for you to access it.
Like a hidden trust fund.
Exactly. And all you need to unlock this massive fortune, all you have to do to wipe out every single debt you've ever had, is just utter a few magic words to the right official.
It is, it's an incredibly seductive premise. I mean, it sounds like the plot of a high-stakes heist movie.
Yeah, or like a contemporary fantasy novel or something.
Right, the idea that there is this hidden mechanism, a secret lever you can pull to just instantly solve all of your financial anxiety.
But for a growing number of people, this isn't a movie plot. It is their absolute reality.
Unfortunately, yes.
So today we are taking a deep dive into the truly bizarre, just legally chaotic world of sovereign citizens, the redemption movement, and the foundation of it all, which is the strawman theory.
Yeah, we have a really fascinating stack of sources to guide us through this whole maze today.
We really do.
Yeah, we're pulling from a detailed legal briefing by the law firm Amundsen Davis, a quick reference guide that was actually tailored for law enforcement by the UNC School of Government.
Which is super helpful for the real-world application stuff.
Definitely. We've also got extensive historical tracking of these movements, articles specifically debunking those persistent Social Security myths, and honestly, a highly entertaining Reddit thread.
Oh, the Reddit thread is gold.
It really is. It's just legal professionals and observers discussing the sheer logic-defying absurdity of all these theories.
So the mission for this deep dive is to essentially map out this elaborate pseudo-legal mythology, right? We're going to look at where these ideas actually came from, the exact mechanics of how these groups try to break the system, and why this movement creates just absolute unmitigated chaos for real-world legal and financial institutions. Okay, let's unpack this.
So to truly grasp the chaos, you really have to understand the foundational delusion here.
The core of it all.
Right. The sovereign citizen movement fundamentally believes that there are two entirely distinct classes of citizens in the United States.
Okay.
You have the sovereign citizens, and these are the original natural citizens. In their minds, they retain all common law rights and operate with absolute freedom.
Right. They frequently refer to themselves as the flesh and blood people, right? Like the living men and women on the land.
Exactly. But then you have the second class, which is federal citizens. And according to this theory, the federal citizen class was created by the 14th Amendment.
Which is historically a very wild interpretation of that amendment.
It's completely fabricated. But here is the core mechanism of the trap, right? Sovereign citizens believe you aren't actually born a federal citizen.
Wait, you weren't?
Not initially, no. They believe that flesh and blood people unknowingly bargain away their absolute freedoms by entering into these hidden, coercive contracts with the government.
Okay, and when I was reading through the Amundsen Davis brief, it hit me that they aren't talking about signing a literal treaty in a smoke-filled room or anything.
No, not at all.
We are talking about the most mundane bureaucratic actions imaginable, like getting a driver's license, applying for a social security number, even just using a standardized zip code on a piece of mail.
Exactly. The belief is that by engaging with these normal government systems, you are actively consenting to be subjugated as a corporate entity.
That is why.
That is the crux of their whole legal theory. I mean, they view the entire modern administrative state as a predatory matrix.
A matrix of contracts.
Right. It's a web of adhesion contracts designed to basically trick you into voluntarily surrendering your sovereignty.
Which brings us to, honestly, the most cinematic part of this whole ideology. The strawman theory. The way I process this, it's like a sci-fi thriller where you suddenly discover you have an evil clone.
I love that analogy.
Except in this case, the clone isn't a biological copy. It's a corporate shell created by the federal government to just take the fall for all your debts and liabilities.
That is a remarkably accurate way to frame it. And they have a very specific historical anchor for this belief, too.
Oh, right, the 1933 thing?
Yeah, the mythology goes that in 1933, when the United States abandoned the gold standard, the country essentially went bankrupt.
Because there was no gold left to back the money?
Precisely.
Right.
So with no actual gold to back the currency, the federal government allegedly had to find new collateral for its foreign debt.
Okay.
And that new collateral, according to the theory, was the future labor of its own citizens.
Just a casual, secret, nationwide enslavement of the population to pay off international investors.
That's a casual enslavement, yeah. And the mechanism the government supposedly uses to execute this is by setting up a secret, U.S. Treasury account for every single citizen the moment a birth certificate is issued.
Oh, wow.
They view the birth certificate as a literal warehouse receipt for human cargo.
That is so dark.
It is. And depending on which specific faction of the movement you look at, this secret account is funded with anywhere from $600,000 to $20 million.
But you, like the living, breathing human, you don't get to touch that money.
No, of course not.
The government creates this fake corporate identity, the straw man. And the straw man holds the funds and carries the liability.
That's the idea.
And what blows my mind is the proof they use for this. They say the evidence is literally hiding in plain sight.
Capitalization.
Yes. Anytime your name is spelled in ALLCAPS, like on your driver's license, a court summons, a utility bill, they believe that document is not addressing you, the human, it is addressing the straw man.
What's fascinating here is how this central myth actively bleeds into real-world misunderstandings about government documents.
Right.
Specifically, Social Security cards. When people desperately want proof of this secret multi-million-dollar account, they start reverse engineering clues from completely mundane administrative details.
I was looking at the ASUSA article debunking these myths from our stack, and I found their fixation on the physical cards just fascinating.
Oh, it's incredibly specific.
Yeah, there is a persistent belief that you can take the routing numbers on Federal Reserve documents, combine them with your Social Security number, and somehow just wire yourself cash from this secret Treasury account.
And people actually try it. I mean, they will try to pay their credit card balances or their mortgages using Federal Reserve routing numbers.
Which obviously doesn't work.
No, as the ASUSA piece lays out definitively, the Federal Reserve does not maintain accounts for individuals.
Right, it's the bank for banks.
Exactly. Attempting to use those routing numbers doesn't unlock a secret vault. It simply results in rejected payments, severe late fees, and frequently federal criminal charges for bank fraud.
The sources also highlight this bizarre fixation on the red numbers printed on the back of the Social Security card.
Oh, yes.
The movement thinks these numbers dictate which specific bank, quote-unquote, owns your physical body as collateral. But the reality is almost comedically boring, right?
It is incredibly boring. Those numbers are purely for inventory control and anti-counterfeiting.
So just paper track.
Yeah, it's literally just the government keeping track of the physical blank card stock before it's even printed. Nothing more.
Wow.
There's also a terrible, pervasive myth that the fifth digit of a Social Security number indicates a person's race. Like odd numbers for white citizens,
Yeah.
even numbers for non-white citizens.
Which is entirely baseless.
Completely false. The fifth digit is just part of a group number used to assign blocks of numbers sequentially. But a movement like this, it sustains itself on confirmation bias.
They see what they want to see.
Right? They take these mundane administrative codes, strip them of all context, and rebuild them as proof of a grand conspiracy.
But holding this bizarre belief in your head is one thing. Where this ideology jumps from the fringes of the internet into the real world is when people try to actually act on it.
Yes, the application of it.
They don't just sit around theorizing about the straw man, you know? They actively attempt to hack the legal system to separate from it.
And hack is exactly how they view it. They want to decouple the flesh and blood person from the corporate straw man so they can ignore laws, stop paying taxes, and just erase their debts.
Going through the Reddit thread in our sources, one user made a brilliant analogy. They pointed out that sovereign citizens treat the law like a rigid computer program, or like a video game cheat code.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Right. They genuinely believe that the legal system isn't about logic or societal consensus. It's just a matrix of code. And if you input the exact right cheat code, like the right combination of punctuation or obscure Latin phrases, the program glitches.
Yep.
And you bypass the boss fight entirely. You just become immune.
It is a literal form of pseudo-legal magic. And the rituals are incredibly specific.
What kind of rituals?
Well, for example, to legally prove they are operating as the living person and not the corporate straw man, they won't just sign a contract. They will sign as agent of, followed by their name.
Oh, interesting.
They will also press their physical thumbprints onto legal documents, and they specifically mandate the use of red ink.
Right, because they claim black or blue ink indicates a corporate maritime admiralty contract.
Yes.
It is a completely alternate reality, and oh man, we have to talk about the punctuation because it is wild.
The punctuation is where you really see the cheat code mentality in full force. There was a highly influential sovereign citizen named David Wynn Miller.
Okay.
And he created an entire syntax system called quantum grammar.
Quantum grammar.
He would write his name using colons and hyphens. So it would be colon David hyphen Win colon Miller.
But why? Like, why would anyone think a colon changes their legal status?
Because Miller taught that conversational English is a corrupt, deceptive language designed by corporations to trick you into contracts.
So words are traps.
Exactly. He believed that by altering the syntax, by turning sentences into these bizarre, hyphenated math equations, basically, he was using a mathematically perfect, legally binding truth language.
And the courts couldn't argue with it.
Right. He thought the government's corporate courts couldn't parse it or overrule it. It breaks their legal grip on the name.
And this obsession with syntax extends everywhere. I mean, they put zip codes in brackets to avoid crossing into federal postal jurisdictions.
Yes.
They adopt titles like Bey or El Bey, claiming affiliation with the Moorish science temple to claim sovereign status.
Some even claim to occupy a completely fabricated United Nations Indigenous Peoples Seat 215.
It's just astonishing. But this magical thinking dictates how they move through the physical world, too. Like the fact that they completely reject the concept of driving.
Yes. The UNC School of Government Guide for Law Enforcement highlights this heavily. In the sovereign legal interpretation, driving is defined as a commercial activity.
Like moving goods for hire.
Exactly. And since they are not engaged in commerce, they argue they aren't driving, they are traveling. And the car isn't a vehicle, it is a conveyance.
Therefore, they don't need a state-issued driver's license, registration, or insurance.
That's the logic. They think the state only has jurisdiction over commercial vehicles. So a police officer will pull them over, and instead of a state-issued plate, the bumper has a homemade tag, claiming affiliation with the MUR Republic or the Washita Nation. And instead of a license, they hand the officer a homemade diplomatic passport.
You can just imagine the jurisprudential headache this causes for a patrol officer who is literally just trying to enforce speed limit.
Oh, it's a nightmare for them.
But the conflict really escalates when it comes to their finances. Because remember that secret treasury account we talked about?
The millions of dollars.
Right. They actively try to spend that imaginary money.
They do. If a sovereign citizen receives a bill, like a mortgage statement, a credit card bill, a tax demand, they won't pay it.
Of course not.
They will write or stamp the phrase accepted for value, or A4V, diagonally across the document.
Which essentially means, I accept this debt, now please route the charge to my secret $20 million government strawman account.
That is the exact intention. Or they will generate incredibly realistic-looking sight drafts.
Which are basically fake checks, right?
Right, which look exactly like checks, but they are drawn against the United States Treasury. Using those Federal Reserve routing numbers we mentioned earlier, they mail these to banks and the IRS, fully expecting the debt to be wiped clean.
Okay, I have to pause here because looking at all this, the homemade license plates, the A4V stamps, the quantum grammar,
It's a lot.
it sounds like an internet conspiracy that just got way out of hand, but this has real documented origins, doesn't it?
It does, and the origins are surprisingly dark. To trace the roots of this ideology, we have to look back to 1969 to a far-right, violently anti-government organization called Posse Comitatus.
And this wasn't just like a quirky tax protest group.
No, not at all. Posse Comitatus was deeply rooted in white supremacist and anti-Semitic ideology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They viewed the federal income tax, fiat currency, and the federal judiciary as tools of an international Jewish conspiracy designed to strip true white Christian Americans of their property.
So they basically rejected the entire federal system.
Completely. They believed the highest legitimate authority in the country was the local county sheriff, and they rejected absolutely everything above that.
So how do we get from a violent anti-Semitic fringe group in 1969 to people in 2026 stamping accepted for value on their visa bills?
The crucial bridge happened in the 1980s, during the severe agricultural recession in the United States.
The farm crisis.
Exactly. You had thousands of desperate farmers losing multi-generational family farms to massive bank foreclosures. They were facing crushing debt and felt completely abandoned by the system.
Just totally desperate people.
Right, and that profound economic despair created the perfect psychological breeding ground for a grift.
Enter Roger Elvick.
Exactly. Roger Elvick was a former North Dakota farmer who lost his own land and became a prominent figure in the remnants of Posse Comitatus.
Okay.
He saw this sea of desperate people and created something he called the redemption package. He traveled the country telling farmers they didn't have to lose their land.
Let me guess. He charged them for this secret knowledge.
Of course. He taught them they could claim massive refunds from the IRS and pay off their farm debts using worthless site drafts, those fake checks we discussed.
So he was selling them a fantasy solution to a very real economic nightmare.
Yes. Elvik was eventually convicted of fraud and sent to federal prison for this.
Well, that makes sense.
But he didn't stop. He was released in 1997, and around 1999, he essentially synthesized the old posse comitatus ideology, the fake financial instruments, and the fear of the legal system into the modern strawman theory.
He brought it all together.
He did. He gave the movement its central unifying myth.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because while Elvik's theories sound absurd, they are not harmless.
Not at all.
When these people feel backed into a corner, they don't just write angry letters to their senator. They launch what law enforcement and the courts call paper terrorism.
It's the perfect term. Because the sovereign citizen strategy isn't to win in court based on merit. It is to paralyze the system through sheer volume and administrative sabotage.
The UNC Guide for Law Enforcement lists some of the documents they file. It's things like affidavit of specific negative averment,
Oh, yeah.
or non-negotiable declaration in the form for trust affidavit in commerce. It's absolute word salad.
It is word salad, but our legal system is legally obligated to process and respond to filings. And the most destructive weapon in their arsenal is the UCC-1 financing statement.
Okay, let's break that down because this is where real people actually get hurt.
Right.
Imagine you are a listener out there and you work as a local county clerk. You make like $45,000 a year. A sovereign citizen comes into your office demanding to file a fake property deed, and you deny it because it's clearly invalid. What happens next?
What happens next is that the sovereign citizen goes online and files a UCC-1 financing statement against you personally.
Against the clerk.
Yes, effectively placing a $10 million lien against your house and your physical property.
Just because the filing system is built on trust?
Exactly. The system isn't designed for a clerk to independently investigate the validity of every single lien upon filing. It's an administrative intake system.
It just goes through.
Right. So instantly, that innocent clerk's credit is ruined. If they try to sell their house or refinance their mortgage, they can't, because their title is clouded by a $10 million fake debt.
That is horrific.
It is. It takes public servants months, sometimes years, and thousands of dollars in legal fees to unwind the damage caused by a single piece of paper.
And they target judges too, right?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
They will send judges invoices for billions of dollars, claiming copyright infringement on their all-chat BS name. It is entirely designed to harass and destroy.
So we know the origins, we know the tactics, and we see the damage. But I really want to know what happens when this fantasy world collides with a gavel.
The reality check.
Yeah. When a sovereign citizen walks into a real courtroom and tries to use their quantum grammar magic spells, how does the system react?
As you can imagine, the magic spells fail spectacularly.
Going back to that Reddit thread for a second, one user pointed out a massive, glaring logic flaw in this whole ideology.
I love this part.
If you successfully argue to a judge that your liabilities, your debts, and your crimes belong solely to your corporate strawman, wouldn't your income, your car, and your house logically belong to the strawman too?
It's a brilliant observation, and it highlights the total hypocrisy of the movement.
Right.
They only want to separate the flesh and blood person from the strongman when it's time to pay a bill or go to jail. They never seem to argue that their assets belong to the corporation.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, very convenient. But legally speaking, courts universally reject these claims. The Emerson-Davis briefing notes that Indiana courts have officially labeled these arguments as legally frivolous and deserving of summary rejection.
And it's not just the U.S.
No, an Australian judge dealing with a similar case literally called the arguments nonsense or gobbledygook.
Which brings me to my absolute favorite story from the historical tracking in our sources, the 1981 case of Lodi v. Lodi in California.
Oh, a legendary case in legal circles.
A man named Oreste Lodi actually sued Oreste Lodi beneficiary.
He sued himself.
He literally sued himself. He claimed that his legal self was controlling his physical estate, and he served his legal complaint to the IRS, just demanding they sort it out.
Amazing.
And the court, predictably, threw it out, officially calling it a slam-dunk frivolous complaint.
And that perfectly mirrors an anecdote shared in the Reddit source. A user recounted a story about a judge dealing with a sovereign citizen during a hearing.
Okay, what happened?
The defendant kept interrupting, insisting that their physical self was entirely separate from their legal self, and that only the legal self was subject to the court's jurisdiction.
Standard straw man stuff.
Right. So the judge calmly listened to this entire speech, looked down from the bench, and said, well, if the physical form isn't here today, we'll need to reschedule.
That is incredible, just completely deflating the magic spell with basic common sense. But beyond just laughing these arguments out of court, there is a fundamental historical legal reality that crushes the all-cap-yes straw man theory, isn't there?
There is, and it dates back over a century before the U.S. even went off the gold standard. It goes back to an 1851 precedent in the U.K. called R.V. Davis.
1851.
Yes. That case established the doctrine of idem sonans, which is Latin for sounding the same.
Meaning the spelling doesn't matter?
Precisely. The law dictates that if a name sounds like your name, it refers to you.
Makes sense.
It does not matter if it is typed in all capital letters. It does not matter if you sign it in red ink or add a colon and a hyphen. If the court establishes your identity, you are bound by the law. You cannot simply opt out of personhood through punctuation.
But because of the devastating paper terrorism we talked about earlier, institutions have had to step up their defenses, right? It's not just a matter of judges rolling their eyes anymore. The system is actively fighting back.
It has to. The damage caused by false liens is so severe that states have been forced to pass specific targeted laws.
Like in North Carolina.
Yes. North Carolina passed General Statute 14118.6, which makes it a straight-up felony to file false liens or encumbrances against public officials.
Good.
And in the financial sector, firms like Emmons & Davis are advising banks to just stop trying to reason with these customers.
Don't even engage.
Right. If someone tries to pay a mortgage with an accepted for value stamp or a fake Treasury site draft, the bank is advised to reject it in writing as invalid, hold the customer strictly to their contract, and simply close their accounts to mitigate risk.
Wow.
This raises an important question, though.
Yeah.
How do we, as a society, deal with this level of pervasive, destructive misinformation? Because as absurd as it sounds to us, people are ruining their own lives and the lives of others over this.
They really are. So let's take a step back and look at the big picture here. We've gone from secret $20 million Treasury accounts to quantum grammar to Harry Potter-style legal spells in the courtroom. So what does this all mean? Why should you, the listener, care about the Washita Nation or David Wynn Miller's colons?
First and foremost, it's a matter of self-defense.
Absolutely.
Understanding this mythology helps you spot the hallmarks of pseudo-law in the wild. If you are, say, selling a used car, and the buyer hands you a signed draft drawn on the U.S. Treasury, or signs the bill of sale as agent of John Doe L. Bay, you now know exactly what you're dealing with.
You know the red flag.
You know the legal headache that follows, and you know to just walk away.
It is also a masterclass in critical thinking. I mean, we live in an era of intense information overload where someone can make a highly produced, very confident TikTok video claiming you have a secret government bank account, and it looks entirely convincing.
People fall for it every day.
Right. So recognizing the anatomy of these conspiracy theories, like how they strip context from mundane things like a routing number or a capital letter, it helps inoculate you against other forms of financial and legal scams.
And that leads to a deeper, perhaps more unsettling thought to leave you with.
What's that?
If you look past the sheer absurdity of the punctuation, the red ink, and the fake license plates, you really have to look at the psychology of the people subscribing to this.
Right. Like, why are they doing this? Why jump through all these massive hoops?
Think about the extreme lengths ordinary people are willing to go to. They are risking felony fraud charges. They are going to federal prison. They are having their homes foreclosed on, all to escape the established financial system.
They're desperately looking for a cheat code to get out of crushing debt.
Exactly. And what does it tell us about the overwhelming complexity, the deep alienation, and just the heavy weight of debt in modern society?
It's a symptom of a larger disease.
It is. People don't turn to the redemption movement when their lives are going great and their mortgages are paid. They turn to it when they feel completely powerless against banks, courts, and a bureaucratic system they just don't understand.
That is incredibly poignant. The true tragedy of the sovereign citizen movement isn't just that the strawman theory is absurd. The real tragedy is the profound financial desperation that makes people so badly want to believe it's true. When the reality of your bank account is just too painful to look at, the fantasy of a secret $20 million government vault waiting just for you becomes an incredibly seductive lie.
A lie that ultimately just creates more of the very suffering they were trying to escape.